I've been living in Nepal for 18, 19 years now, and created an organization to really target community-driven, community-owned poverty alleviation. And working with parental loss, there was a lot of orphans, there was extreme multidimensional poverty.
That's the incredible Maggie Doyne. I'm Cara Duffy, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast. I'm just so excited that you were a yes, because to set the stage for everyone who's listening, I am sitting the last row possible in this theater. I'm up against the back wall up top, and I'm sitting with a few women, but a bunch of very outdoorsy, strong men in the back row to watch your movie being premiered at Mountain Film Festival this past May. I had no idea what I was walking into. I'm like, that one looks good. Let's go. I did not know that I should have brought an entire backpack full of tissues. I did not know that it would change so many perspectives I was having and be left feeling so empowered because of what an incredible human you are.
Thank you. All the feels. I was having all kinds of experiences that night too. You know, I hadn't watched the film in its entirety just because it was so emotional. I was in the front row surrounded by my children, and there was something incredibly powerful, vulnerable, anxiety-provoking about watching your life on a screen in a theater with 800 other people who were also having that same experience, but you felt the collective laugh, gasp, tears. I remember these two gals behind me were just sobbing, and I was like, hold it together. It was like they took the cries out of me. They were crying for me, and I could just hold steady. So yeah, it was a powerful film, and I'm glad you were there to hold. I think we all collectively held it together. We didn't hold it together, but we held the pain and the grief and that experience together. And I felt way lighter after sharing that story. So
It really, people talk about transcendental experiences like being in a spiritual space or being in a yoga class or being in this well-known magical place. But I think to your point, everyone who was there, part of why I love the Mountain Film Festival community is everyone's just good people. It's good people who care and share a lot of values and just want to spotlight stories and make the world better. And so I think having a room full of people who are coming from that place and then seeing your film Between a Mountain and a Sky and the story of it all, it was the right group to hold that container and take some of it on. And it all of us were left, we walked out. I remember running into Jedediah Jenkins and him being okay, so we're not going to any other movies because we have to process that for 3 hours, right? I'm like, yes, correct. He's like, we're all going to hug and process it. I'm like, yes.
I left that theater and I just walked. I was like, I just have to walk and move my body. Yeah, it was a lot to process. And I thank you for being there to share it. You know, when we were deciding what festivals to go to and what to apply to, I just told my husband, I was like, I only want to go to Mountain Film. That's the only one I care about. That's the only one I care about. And it's because it did feel like a hug, and it felt like all of us coming together. So yeah, still reeling from that experience for sure.
Well, I jumped right into sharing the behind the scenes. So let's go back a step and tell everyone listening your name, where you are, at least today in the world, and all the things that you are up to, because you are one of the most subtle, badass, inspiring people I have had the pleasure of getting to meet in real life.
Oh, thanks. So my name's Maggie Doyne. I am the co-founder of an incredible organization called BlinkNow, changing the world in the blink of an eye. And my story began, I'm actually from New Jersey. Woo woo.
What part of New Jersey?
It's a little town called Mendham.
I was born in Ridgewood, so that's why I was asking. Northern Jersey.
We Jersey girls. It's we're right around the corner from each other. It was the suburbs. I grew up on a cul-de-sac with a trampoline in my backyard and a dog and two sisters and a mom and a dad, and pretty much your standard suburban childhood. I went to public school, played sports, and you'll relate to this, but like the expectation amongst the privileged suburban girls of New Jersey is that you get really good grades and you do all the right things and you get into college, and it has to be a good college. And, you know, and I kind of just had this moment at 18 of, I think it showed up as like fear. And I was like, I don't have any idea what I want to do, what I want to be, where I want to study, what college, like, and the first kind of step off the beaten track for me was deciding to take a gap year. And no intentions of like changing anything in the world or doing any service or, you know, other than outside of myself. I just had questions about my own purpose and journey. And so I took a gap year. My second semester, I ended up in northeastern India. And at the time, I couldn't have even placed Nepal on a map. But I started to meet Nepali people, migrants, refugees, children, working in a center there, and it was called Ramana's Garden. Met my co-founder, and it was the year 2005 when Nepal was kind of unraveling from this major crisis and civil war. And I decided to go to Nepal with my friend Sunita and find her home and find her village. She had been a refugee herself, and I basically fell in love with Nepal, with the Midwestern region. I moved there, stayed there, built a life there. I've been living in Nepal for 18, 19 years now. And with my co-founder, Tope, created an organization to really target community-driven, community-owned poverty alleviation and working with parental loss. There was a lot of orphans. There was extreme multidimensional poverty. And so my co-founder's an orphan himself, and we were just like, we need to target these issues in a different way. And we set out to create a home and a school and a women's center. And it's basically like a beautiful fabric of a community development org now, with sustainability and food and farming. And then it's just my life. I've become a mother there. I ended up
well, and to
children.
preface, like you're really making this sound like it's no big deal. And that is the farthest from the truth, because you've created one of the largest children's centers in Nepal, and you have adopted how many children?
93.
93. Like, this is not a joke. Like, this is such a, like, people be like, oh, like, we should adopt one. You're like, no, you've 93 and it's not stopping, right? Like, it's 93 so far.
Well, I should explain, like, basically what was happening at the time is that orphanages were these horrible, awful, dismal places that were dark and had really bad outcomes. That's like our foster care system. Mm-hmm. So our system in the world for raising the most vulnerable at-risk children are broken. And I could see that, especially in my travels and in working with children. I love children. I was a babysitter. I was, you know, I had a beautiful childhood. And so I kind of, even though I was super young, see the miscorrelate, like, you know, if you can't create a world where children are safe and fed and have their most basic human needs and rights met, you're going to have generations and generations and cycles and trajectories of poverty and violence and more vulnerable children and more multi-generational trauma. And so we set out to create a new kind of home and to re-envision what this could be. And at Coppola Valley Children's Home, the walls are bright yellow, and there's a swing set, and there's puppies, and there's always music playing and pancakes being cooked, and there's a rooftop where we have dance parties, and there's, when it's raining, we go up and play in the rain, and there's soccer balls. And we tried to like really flip the narrative of what residential home could be and what family can look like. And it seemed really simple at the time. I still think it's really simple, like raise kids with love and they turn out amazing. But it was revolutionary, and it ended up changing a community and a region. And we took that same ethos and built a full service community school. And now BlinkNow is really truly a model for inspiring others and changing the way we do development work around the world. I'm proud of
It's
it.
just, I am proud of you. And you, how old were you when you adopted your first child?
So I was 20. Um, and I want to reiterate, it's not just me. We created like a family. There's aunties, there's uncles. My co-founder is like very much a father figure. Now my husband. We kind of created a home environment filled with people. It's like a commune.
Yeah.
But filled with, it's like a children's village. And I'm a mother figure. And, but yeah, became a mom very, very young, unexpectedly, very unexpectedly. And was raising children as I was just coming out of being a child myself.
Well, and I think what's so interesting is that you stepped into this and you were building this organization the same time that you were figuring out what motherhood, like all the things are being figured out as you went. And I think it just speaks to like what you said, it is simple. Like changing the world is simple. We already have the answers to change things. It's just who's going to do the simple work to actually make it happen. And I mean, there's the love that comes out of the film, and I really want everyone to see it. And I cannot wait to see how it keeps echoing and making more magic for you and everyone who watches it, because it's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And there's the full cycle of human story in there, because it's not all rainbows and saving the world. Like there's so much heartache and struggle in it, and that's the whole foundation of everything that you've created as well. Like both existing in the same place, I think, is one of the most beautiful things about the film and also what you're doing. And to see how incredible these kids are, like it's and to know that it's not the same thing could happen for kids everywhere. Like, why aren't we replicating this model in every city, country? Like, how do we do the echo effect? How can BlinkNow be everywhere?
That's the dream. That's the wish. We are a sort of open source learning model where people and community leaders can take pieces of the learnings and the blueprints and take bits and pieces. That's hopefully the next iteration of where we go in the next few decades. But yeah, it's like a simple solution, but as the film unravels, it starts with pure intentions and this, I don't know what to do, but I have to do something better, and I can't look away from this riverbed where children are breaking rocks to survive. And then you see the layers of complication and the layers of questions. I always think like it's better to guide with questions than answers. And I think that was the thing that we had going for us, being so young and so novice and so, I don't want to say naive, but like pure and let's do this. And then you realize, oh my gosh, there's a lot to this. And that's why it's become a lifelong mission and vision. And there are complicated things about it. And that's why we need communities and communities themselves self-determining what change is going to look like. And multidimensional poverty needs multidimensional solutions. And that was kind of the footprint and the models that we built and kind of created. And then there's this simple layer of just because you're born into less doesn't mean you deserve scraps and you deserve less. And so how do we create quality? And how do we create love and a mission? And how do we truly raise children? Because, you can give a kid a backpack and put them to school, but how many of us are going to raise our children? and you step into that right away in the book and in the movie. And we tried to lead with questions and not answers, and leave everyone with the question of like, where do we go from here? How do we find hope? How do we ground ourselves in love? How do we return to heart? How do we keep ourselves like getting up again and again and again in this world where we are so hit with the suffering and the trauma and the hopelessness and the helplessness? Because we go through these stages. I don't know about you, but some days you just want to put a fence up and like get under your cover and hide. and
Yes.
hide. And yet we're being called to show up and to change things. And how do we walk, and how do we not get too hard and stay soft and stay hopeful? And I think my husband, who's the filmmaker, captured that really beautifully.
Hmm.
It's just, to be a human right now is hard, and to love is hard, and it's brave, and yet it's the only way. It's the only way through.
Yeah, and it's the most human thing to do. Like, I think that's I right personally in the past 2 weeks, I've just been so happy that the Olympics are on, which sounds so silly, but
I'm
even
obsessed. I'm
yes,
obsessed.
totally obsessed. And like here, like even the commercials around the Olympics are like hope and inspiration and loving your neighbor. And like Coca-Cola is the commercial where everyone's just hugging. I'm like, can we have this all the time? Like, why is this only for 2 weeks every 4 years or every 2 years? I'm like, this is what the US needs. This is what the global collective needs. Like, we have to stop having the majority of our conversations be about how everyone's bad and things are
Yeah.
ending, and instead look at all the things that are happening every day that are like, there are so many miracles happening, and there are so many people who are stepping up to the plate. And I just, I don't, it doesn't have to be this hard or this complicated. And
Mm-hmm.
I think what you guys are doing, the book, the movie, like it's showing that it is like your initial instincts of like, no, just like give them a hug, just love them, like feed them, like all these things that we would do intuitively are the answers. So like, how do we move all the other junk out of the way?
Yeah,
And
I think that's
it's,
a good point, of moving the other junk and the distraction and the fear and the things that are being thrown at us. And it's not like a Pollyanna kind of thing, or like a just be positive. It's like, no, there are pressing issues, there are
mhm,
problems, and there's also solutions that work. And we can live on a planet where there's enough for everyone. We
yeah,
can return to a more restorative equilibrium. We have to believe that as a human family, we can achieve a place that is peaceful, and a place
mhm,
where every child can prosper. And we have to keep a clear and open vision in mind. So it's like there is work to do, and yet we cannot get paralyzed right now.
mhm, yeah.
And we're getting thrown so much. I mean, I'm all about the Olympic fever as well. Talk about like badass women
Yeah.
showing us the way. And I think it's like this return
Hmm.
to, first of all, we're starving for it. We're just
Yeah.
starving for like
Hmm.
anything that can give us that sense of like, oh, just do it. But I agree. I think it's like, how do we stay clear and centered and calm and just get ourselves to work?
Hmm.
And our callings are all different too,
Yeah.
right? But I think we have been in a place of, I don't know what to do, so I'm just gonna do nothing. And I think as a humanity, we're gonna get to an elevated place where it's like, no, we're all gonna do something, and we're all gonna do our part. And enough of us doing that something and doing our part and taking that one step is gonna be the tipping point to get to where we need to go. But I'm a pretty optimistic person. Oh, like, even despite everything I've been through, I like to live in optimism and belief that the world's going to be okay and humanity is going to be okay.
Well, and how can you not when you see it in the kids' faces every day? Like that's who gets to decide that we like that it keeps going that way, right? Like
For me,
I
it's children. For me,
mhm,
it's children. It's something we can all agree on, I hope. It's something that is so pure and so innocent, and to me, sacred. I
mhm,
mean, there's nothing that makes me feel hope more than a child safe and giggling and just marveling at the earth and in wonder. And to me, it's like, whatever we can do, like I will put it all on the line to fight for that, to fight
yeah.
for children having a childhood with wonder and joy and fulfillment and ease. It's I will fight for it till my death. I will be here. You will see me fighting for that because I think it's all we have left to fight for.
And the next thing for me is like you are fighting every day. And there's no way for us to have the balance that we always want. And the to-do list that you have, I imagine, and I know it's not just you, it's the entire team. You truly have a village around this that's supporting all the ideas and all the people and all the kids involved. But your to-do list, like, I imagine you like drop it and it's like a scroll that just like goes out the door probably goes into another country at this point. So how are you every day going to bed feeling like I did enough? Or is that the golden thing to achieve?
Mm. So you hit the question that I'm working through myself a lot. It's the kind of career and mission. I'm a CEO. I'm a mother to young adult children, to teenagers, to infants, to a toddler. Um, I'm working in humanitarianism and philanthropy, which is a real burnout, a real difficult sector. So I'm 37 now, being called to like figure some of this stuff out. And it's the kind of life where you could work all day, every day, morning till night, 18, 19, 20 hours and still not be done. And there's so much need, right? And so much to do. And I used to just work, and I still do, all the time, because when you're so like, that workaholism takes on because you really believe and you've got that passion or like that hunger and oh my gosh, this matters so much. There are literal lives on the line. And yet, realizing that it is a marathon and I want to be doing this when I'm 80, and I probably will need to be doing this when we're 80. I mean, I think it's going to take a lifetime. And so just pacing and like planning and like really staying in my heart, remembering to breathe, remembering to walk, remembering to drink a glass of water, go to the bathroom, or just, needing to stay like sane. And as you know, you've been close to the story, like there are times when you want to quit. There are times when you want to give up. This has been really hard. It's been a very difficult 19 years. And so I think at some point you realize I'm still showing up, like I'm still here.
I did it one more day.
And just like one day at a time, and rest when I need to and sleep when I need to. And realize that like I'm in this for the long haul. I'm not going anywhere. And so I need to show up every single day as my best, most centered, most heartfelt self. And I think we're all being called to do that, right? Like, how do you still show up as, as your best self and work through the anxiety and work through the ups and downs and work through the like 10,000 things that are constantly. I don't think my list is any longer than any other working woman. We all have stuff.
We all have long lists. I just think yours might be at a magnitude of like factor 10, because most, it's like, oh, my 1, 2, 4 kids, not 93. It's, if we even across looking just within the business, like, yeah, you're the CEO, but you're the CEO of so many pillars of things. And as someone who has multiple businesses, like everyone, but it's the matter of team, right? So I guess how are you adding more people? How are you delegating? How are you giving it away so that you can keep expanding?
Yeah. Well, so I think because I was so young, I knew that I knew nothing. Like, and that is actually a superpower. Yeah. Because you're like, well, I don't know. I know I want to do this. I know I can do it, but I know I need a lot of help. And I think it helped me to be like, how do I find the person who can, or so I'd say like one of my superpowers is just people, right? Like partnering with Taupe, finding community leaders, finding, our executive director is amazing. I mean, our boards are incredible. Our community stakeholders are incredible. So yeah, it's creating a mission that will live beyond you and your heart. And at the end of the day, as a mom, especially, if something happens to me tomorrow, I need to know that my children will live on. My youngest
Mhm.
two babies in the home right now are only 6 months old. So it's again keeping that big picture and creating a mission that lives beyond yourself as a founder is
Yeah.
really important. So it cannot be founder driven. It cannot be just me. It really does have to be a collective and a collective purpose. And I think BlinkNow has done a really great job of bringing folks together around the world who share that wish and share that promise. And so every day I do a gut check. Every year, I think just like everybody else, we're following a strategic plan. We've got
Mhm.
goals, we've got smart goals, we've got strategies and objectives and everything down to the task. We're in Asana, we're on Google Drive, we're on Slack. I mean, just hustling it out.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. And luckily for me, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. It's like it's life. It's my world, and yeah, there's still a lot I want to do. Yeah.
I'm I'm going to pivot the conversation a little bit because one of the things that I was left with from the film was also that you're allowed to have 93 children and find a guy who's like, "Yes, I'm all in on that plan." And as someone who is
Mm,
currently single and looking for someone who wants to be on board for my insane plans, it was so inspiring because there's so much in the contrary that's being discussed in modern dating world.
yeah.
How lucky do you feel your meeting was and that he's just like, "Yes, I'm just a yes." Like that's how it occurred to me and I'm sure that's not the full reality of it all. But finding someone who is a yes to you, what was that experience for you and how has it
Mm.
changed what you're up to?
My gosh, our love story is my favorite love story. I I can only speak for myself and my own journey, but um, I spent my 20s just like laser focused on creating
Mm-hmm.
this thing and doing this thing, and I wasn't looking. And if
Yeah.
anything, it just seemed like this thing that would never happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it just there was no feasible way. There was no one I could picture that would fit into this like very complicated puzzle. And then I met Jeremy, um, and now I'm like, I can't imagine my life without him fitting into the puzzle. It was the same thing when I got pregnant with a biological child. I was like, oh, I can't imagine. And then what this is going to be like. And then my biological child just like felt Ruby just fit in. We love her so much. I can't imagine our family without her. And I, I don't know. It's like surrendering, trusting. I was set up. I was a really good friend, Libby, Delana. She had a vision. She met him on a job. She saw him. She knew me. And she was just like, these two people have to meet. We did. We hit it off right away. And things that should have felt really complicated, like him moving to Nepal and like taking all of the kids and figuring out melding careers forever, were so simple and it was so
Mm-hmm.
easy. Um, and it worked and it fit. And we're a very compatible matchup, and he's made my life even more beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he wasn't a prince in shining armor that made everything easier. He didn't take the pain away. He didn't take, you know, any of the complexities away, but he's a rock solid partner. He's a tree. He's, was when he left, he was living, he had a film career in film and he was making commercials and had a great career. And when we met, he picked up his camera. The only thing he knew was to start filming and teaching the kids how to film and take pictures and portraits. And that is why the film is so raw and so real,
Mm-hmm.
is because it was literally just him and some of his friends, like following this story for 9 or 10 years. And yeah, I'm really grateful for it. It's it makes the film less of a like humanitarian nonprofit film and a little bit of love story and a little bit of rom-com and a little bit of yeah, it's just like awesome. It made it awesome. He almost left that whole part out of the film, and it I think it is what makes it real and true, right? We all need a love story.
Well, and I think we all need a love story, and there's so many love stories in the movie. It's not
And
just your love story, right? It's you and your co-founder. It's you and the kids. It's
it,
like there's all these interpersonal relationships that like the movie just oozes love, which is like I saw a post this morning about Tim Waltz, the new VP candidate, and
obsessed.
oh yeah, and the post just said, I didn't realize how bad America needed a dad that could give him a hug and change a spark plug. And it's like, yes, we do. We really just need a hug right now. And it's not just the US. Like there's such a need for this hug, which again, your movie and then the Olympics and all these things that we could pull in that are just showing people being good people. Like why the fact that this is shocking and startling and needed is more what I'm concerned about.
It's like we forgot for a second. I've been loving the Tim Walz stuff too. It's like, oh, sorry, Tim Walz is outside cleaning my grill right now, and oh, we had
I
to
know.
leave at 4:39 in the morning because Tim Walz didn't want to hit traffic and he had the car all packed. It's like, yeah, and he's eating cookies and like, it's just, I know. There's this return to what is real and what is true and
Hmm.
what makes us human and what makes us alive and why we're here. And I think maybe we forgot it for a minute or things got really polarizing or social media entered the scene. It was like, oh. But now it's, I don't know, I want to believe that there's a return to love.
Hmm.
And like, how do we show up every day as our most loving, compassionate self and show up in love for our world and for our communities and for our families and yeah. So and that makes it feel a lot simpler in a time where things are really overwhelming. And
Hmm.
I think Jeremy did a really good job in the film of just being like
Yeah.
just this. This is one story of love. This is one story of heart, and it 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 was beautiful. I'm grateful for it.
Me too. I'm so grateful that you guys shared it with us. Like I want more. Like, is there going to be a series happening? Like, how do we turn this into like the big brother we needed, not the one that we got on TV?
Oh,
Like,
I hope. I mean, so at the moment we're looking for a distributor
yeah,
and just we need to find a home for it. And then yes, hopefully lots more. I mean, the crazy thing is that he had 9 years worth of footage. And to cut a 90-minute documentary, he had tried a series, he had tried multiple episodes, he'd tried like there were so many storylines. In fact, like the CEO entrepreneur in me was like, I hated the film. Like, what about the greatest in the world? Like, what about the women's center? Like, you missed, and like, it was really hard to remove. I was very removed from the filmmaking process, and I was like, and it became this like really personal story. But yeah, I think there's so much room for more. Um, I have to be honest and say that when we were shopping the series around, a lot of the distributors were like, "Oh, sorry, we're looking for crime right now, or we're looking in for thriller, or we're looking for like cult movies." And when you look at
yeah.
online streaming, it's a lot of scandals, scammers,
Hmm.
murder mystery. Like, there's a lot of darkness in what we watch. The
Yeah.
Swindler. So it was a good reminder to me of like, if we're watching these things, if the media that we're taking in is all violence and swindler and, culty, it's just, if that's what we're watching, violence, then that's the world that we're creating. So why are we, so
Yes.
we have to find a distributor that wants a story about love and children.
Hmm.
And I have to tell you, when we were shopping this film, a lot of people wanted crime and thriller and true murder mystery and the guy that killed in cats. And I just like, there's a lot of,
I know.
think about it. Look at the
Yes.
headlines out there.
Well, and I've been thinking a lot about this because of the Olympic effect. Like, no one's watching, no one I know is watching anything else right now. And I'm so curious what the data set is because I'm also seeing so many talking on threads or Instagram or TikTok about how everyone's mental health is feeling better. Like magically, we all feel better in the past week because we've been watching the Olympics. And I'm like, I hope the executives are getting that and seeing this because we don't want it. It's a reason why we go back to shows like Friends or Modern Family or things that just remind us of okay, we're gonna be all right. Like this is all that other stuff is so minuscule. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, the last crime thing I watched was something in Italy, and I went down a rabbit hole Googling how many murders are in Italy. Almost none. In fact, there was a year where there weren't any. And then I started ranking every country and like really looking at where the problem is. And US is ranked number 2 in murders a year. But we don't show up on the other list because of our population size. But I'm like, I don't care about the verse population size. I care about the total number. Like, why is this okay? And to your point, what are we creating that's allowing that to be acceptable and that to be something that we're consuming?
Yeah. I
I
think
don't
we need to
want
think a
there to be
lot.
more crime dramas because then there needs to be more crime.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's again so simple and so true. I think we do need to think a lot about what we're consuming at the moment. Um, what are we consuming as a collective humanity? Like, what are we consuming? How are we spending our time? What are we watching? What are we taking in? Um,
What are we
and there is a
contributing to?
yeah, and like there's a reason why we're all struggling with mental health and anxiety and depression and this paralysis. We've been through some hard things, and yet, how are we going to continue to show up? What do we need to watch and what do we need to consume and contribute in order to show up better? So, yeah, I hope the film does that. I hope it gets out. I hope millions of people see it. I hope people feel hope. I hope people are called to love, write love letters, all the things. Let's see. We'll find it. We'll find a landing space for it for sure.
I want to come back to you as badass CEO. Not a job you probably imagined. If you go back to 8-year-old you, would she have imagined that this is your life?
No, no, no. I think even 17-year-old, 18, no, I never imagined it in a million years. And every day I wake up and I'm like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for getting to do this, getting to live, um, getting to do work that's meaningful, that I love.
Mm.
My kids mostly. I mean, I'm just so grateful for my kids. I'm so proud of them. And yeah, no, this was not in the cards. None of this was
Mhm.
in the cards. None of it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty lucky.
What do the words powerful and ladies mean to you? And do their definitions change when they're next to each other?
Hmm. Yeah, powerful ladies. Like I see Amy Cuddy's like power pose. And I see all like the strong Olympian women, our rugby player favorites, Ilona
Yes.
Mayer and Simone, and our track stars. Like yeah, I see physical strength, mental strength, emotional strength. Yeah, I think powerful ladies like showing up as who they are, as their whole, true, authentic selves. Like that's when I feel my most powerful. And the word ladies at the end just like gives me the image of like all of the cool women that we get to walk the planet with right now. Like, what a cool
Mhm.
time to be alive. There's inspiration everywhere we look, from sciences to sports to technology to like watching women claim these spaces and
Hmm.
show up. We're getting there. Writers and creatives. I just, what a cool time to be alive.
Yeah. Who are you when you're not CEO and you're not mom? Like, what are you nerding out about, geeking out about? Like, are you a Swiftie? Are you like, what else? What else makes like, I feel like there's so much light shining on this part of you that's so huge. And it's also like you're a regular, complicated, well-rounded modern woman. So like, who else are you?
Yeah, when people meet me, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so not what I expected," and I want to be like, "What did you expect?" I don't know. Like, I, 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 I always think like, I never want to lose my meanness. Like, I am a humanitarian, and I'm silly, and I like to be funny, and I like to be light. I like to dance in the kitchen. Um, I'm an aunt, to my nieces and nephews, and I'm a neighbor. And I struggled with that. When you start working, I started working, I got into my career when I was 18, 19 years old. And there was a period where I think I lost myself and I was only that. Um, and actually, it was during COVID that we had to lead this major COVID migrant crisis. There were 4 million Nepali migrants across the border who we needed to bring home. And I worked for months and months and months and with a team of people on a Welcome Home Nepal campaign. And after that, I got reunited with my husband and our 2-year old and ended up in Canada. Jeremy's Canadian. And I ended up on an island off of an island in the San Juans off Vancouver Island. And I had to just stop and pause during COVID. And I was in the middle of a forest in a teeny tiny cabin in isolation for 14 days. And I had this sort of crisis moment because I had never asked myself, who am I without all of that? Who am I
Mhm.
when I'm not a humanitarian, a philanthropist, this Nepal identity? Um, and I used the time during COVID to write my book, to ask those questions, to walk and just figure out more of my identity and kind of come back to myself. I'm competitive. I love to play soccer. That's like why I love the Olympics so much.
But I saw
Um,
your post with you and the kids being like, we trash talk each other and we complain about who's roughing and who's not. And I
yeah.
was like, this is just so real and normal. And I think that's like, I'm so curious who these people thought you would be when they met you.
Yeah, I think like you think of this and like this like peace in the world or just like kind like but I'm like I grew up in Jersey. We're tough. We're like,
Yeah.
go get it and change it. And there are soft parts of me, there are hard parts of me, there are parts I'm really working on. Um I'm a work in progress. I've got a lot to figure out. I've got issues just like everybody else. And I'm still on that journey of figuring it out. Like I have a lot to figure out. This is hard. Lifing is really hard. I've got a
Lifing
lot
is
to do.
hard. Yeah, that's the thing. Lifing is hard when you're up to big things and you keep
Mhm.
adding new ideas to the list. Like that's the hard part. Like, and I think I want people to be happy, but what I really want more is for people to be satisfied. Because I
Hmm.
think that there's a conversation right now about happiness over everything. And I'm like, no one I know who is up to cool shit, who is inspired by themselves, I think would say they're happy every day. Because there's some days that are really hard and there's some days that totally suck. But there's other days that you are waking up and it feels like Christmas morning because you cannot wait to do what you're going to do. And I think I heard someone recently talk about the
Hmm.
rule of thirds. If you're up to big things, like one third, you're going to love it. One third, you're going to hate it. And one third, you're going to be like crying because of how hard you're working. And those are the thirds. There's no, like, you don't get it all the time. It's like this moving through the spaces because there's a correlation right now between happiness and comfort that I think is limiting our abilities to be the bigger versions of ourselves.
Oh my
What do
gosh,
you think?
so beautifully said. I've been reflecting on the same thing, because I'm like, am I a problem that I'm experiencing this role, like my highest highs and then my lowest
Yeah.
lows? Like, can we just hang out like somewhere in the middle? Like, level it out a little, Maggie. And then I thought, well, maybe it's proportionate. Like,
Hmm.
maybe if you want to have all this love and those moments where you're like, I'm so grateful to be alive of 8 billion people, I feel like, well, if you want to live those moments, you also have to have and love more. Because the
Hmm.
more you love, it's a vulnerability because your heart is so open and you love so much. But the more you love, there's more opportunity for the loss of
Hmm.
and the disappointment, and the people we love suffer. It's
Yeah.
just inevitable. Nobody gets like an easy pass. And I've been thinking a lot about like, maybe these ups and downs aren't a me problem. It's like that is what it means to be human. Your greatest highs and your lowest lows, and you're jumping out of bed, everything's great today, and then you're like, I can barely move out of bed. And maybe just embrace that and think that it's not like a default in my settings. And Liz Gilbert is a writer who I love, and she wrote the book Big Magic.
I love
And
that book. It is our most recommended book on this podcast.
but she has the concept of like a shit sandwich.
Yeah.
And that helped me a lot because like she says like, yeah, in every job, if you like love your job, there's also just a shit sandwich. And so
Yeah.
that's really helped me of like, oh, this is a shit sandwich day. I just have to eat it. Or
Yeah.
like just get through this thing. And we want careers and lives to all be picture perfect and romantic and these magical moments and these best days and pitter pattering of the rain and the sunshine but it's like, no, a lot of it's just grindy and gritty, and you just have to
Hmm.
and like get through it, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
why are we selling anything otherwise? Like, that really helped me to be like, Liz Gilbert has shit sandwich days where she's just like being a writer or
Yeah.
a lawyer or a doctor. Like, so that helped me a lot.
Well, no matter what job you have, someone thinks it's glamorous and magical, but that's the tip of the iceberg. If you're lucky, 10% of what you're actually doing. Like, I worked in footwear and apparel for 20 years before doing everything I'm doing now. And people are like, oh, that's so cool. You're doing this and that. And I'm like, it was cool for 4 seconds when this and this happened. Otherwise, I've been on an airplane every 2 weeks and this, like, that's not the fun part. And
We all want like a hero story, and this
yeah,
thought of like everybody else has it all together and all figured
no.
out, and there's ease, and there's just perfectly skinny and perfectly this, and then it's just like, no, no, we're
Mm-mm.
all just like humans trying to human, and like get off the pedestal, stop putting other people. It's just like, yeah, I think it's so true. It's so
But it's if all the glory that we really crave, right? That purpose oriented kind, and glory is maybe not the right word, but like to have those glorious moments,
true. Mhm.
we have to be doing the scary, gutsy, I don't want to things. Otherwise, we just kind of hang out in our small life and things are flat and we're not using the power we have to do anything. I think anyway. Like
Yeah,
I
we're
think I
so capable of so much more.
mm-hmm.
We are, like, especially women. Did you end up
Yeah.
seeing Mountain Queen?
No, not yet.
It's on Netflix.
Okay,
Go
good.
get it. Like, we're so capable of so much. And no, it won't
Hmm.
be easy. And it'll be in the guts and we'll spill out everywhere. But like, we're only alive. We get this one shot. Like, I want to feel all there is to feel and do all there is to do and go out strong and go out
Yeah.
knowing that I was my bravest, most vulnerable, most, and that I rested when I needed to. I agree. I agree. We only get as much as we give. And yeah,
How
yeah.
has living so long in Nepal shifted your views on spirituality?
Hmm. Well, the way I was raised and then just being in Nepal spiritually, it's a very accepting um, place, open to all spiritualities and faith. Um, and it comes back to like, even in Buddhism and Hinduism, um, it's a real, if you look at all of the faiths and spirituality, it's a real like just compassionate love
Yeah.
kind of vibe, which I really love. Um, but yeah, I think it was a really great place to be in that it was tolerant and accepting and everybody's welcome and all ideas are at the table. And yeah, it is a really spiritual place for sure. Um, and also a very accepting and tolerant place, which I really love. That's the kind of
Hmm.
spirituality I'm into. Like
Yeah.
you have your beliefs and go on your journey. I'm on mine. Hopefully we meet up. And that jives well with me. And yeah, I love it.
Speaking of crossing paths, have you and Carol Dunham met and crossed paths?
You know, we know of each other and we've been
Hmm.
in similar circles and we need to meet. I know we need to meet. Ugh, yeah, I know her well. Yeah.
She's been on the podcast, and she was someone I met at Mountain Film the year before and fell in love with. Um, but yes, you guys need to hang out because again, just like such a person that is oozing light and love, and like let's just fix things. Let's just love
Yeah.
on people and fix things. And I think like within my business coaching world, like people ask like, what's your niche? I'm like, no, it's values based. This is not an industry thing. But light and love are like anyone who's doing their thing from light and love, let's help them. Let's help them make it better and easier.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's in
I
that
love it.
on that team. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Just stay in the light, stay in the
Stay in the
joy,
light.
stay in the silliness, stay centered, stay grounded. We got this.
Hmm. So we ask everyone on the podcast where you put yourself on the powerful lady scale. If 0 is average everyday human and 10 is the most powerful lady you can imagine, where would you put yourself today and on an average day?
Oh, I'm gonna go 0. I feel pretty average. Yeah. Some moments where I'm like a 2 or 3, where I'm like, oh, on the good high end of the roller coaster, I'm like, I got this, let's go. But most of the time, just a standard B minus.
Hmm. I know, like one of the my core memories from Mountain Film this year was running into you and your friends and kids coming out from swimming in the river, and just how happy you were. It was everyone had already seen the movie, and you were just actually. It looked like you were able to actually be sort of on a vacation and just playing. And it was so nice to see your story and then run into you and just have you beaming and saying hi to everyone on the trail. And I'm like, whoever this human is, we're keeping her because that's the humans that I want to be holding hands with, changing the world, right? Is that how that experience was for you? Like, did you feel like you could actually have fun and play when you were there?
Yes, 100%. And I very vividly remember that moment. That stream river was freezing cold. And we all were like cold dipping, my friends and I. And I got out and I think I was dripping wet and the sun was, coming down. And I I would say I do play a lot. Play is like a really important part of my life. And it's something that I think makes me unique. Um, and that's because I'm surrounded with children all the time and surrounded by children. And I have 2-year-old at the moment, my son, and a 6-year-old daughter. So we're always playing. And even in the moments where you get lost in your head, I'm surrounded by hundreds of children that are like, look, look at this rock. It shines like the moon. Or like they don't let you stay in that place too long. And so, yeah, I'm always trying to play, always trying to keep it light. I think to counterbalance some of the darkness and intensity, it's really important that I find my way to the light, because of the rest of my world being dark and being really intense. I think it's made me speak out and gravitate towards people who can play and keep things a bit lighter. And it's the only way for me to survive, actually. It's essential for my survival, because if I go dark, it's harder for me to get back. And by keeping play and levity and just like, just yeah, those moments to let loose and come back to my childlike self, the childlike self that found Hema on the river, and the childlike self who I love so much. Like, yeah, it's my way of loving myself, I think.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
her. I need that version of Maggie, because the other Maggie is not very fun. She's dark. She cries. She's anxious. She bites all of her nails off. She's super intense and super competitive. So I think I've been trying, especially as I get older, right? Because when you get older, things get a lot more serious, and adulting is so hard. So I think we do need to play more.
Yeah. Well, this is a pretty powerful group of women and people who just love making magic happen whenever we can. What is on your to-do list, to manifest list, your wish list? What do you need? How can we help?
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Well, everybody can follow along at blinknow.org. Find us on social, like and share. And there's constantly calls to action. Like, we need volunteers, we need educators, we need this person to help us with this curriculum. My book is out. It's called Between the Mountain and the Sky. So supporting that. We're looking for a home for the film Between the Mountain and the Sky. So follow along and find out and see if we can help us with that. And yeah, just one small step. Everybody do your thing where you are. That actually gives me more comfort than anything in the world. Keep doing your badass, powerful lady things. And enough of us will change the world.
Whenever I'm feeling down and like I don't want to be powerful today, I force myself to stand up and put my hands out at my sides and hold hands with the imaginary, well, not imaginary, but the not in front of me women that I know, like you, are kicking ass every day. It's like, no, we're not. I have to remind myself in that gesture that I'm not doing it by myself. And because all the things that we as women know have to be changed, like it's a huge list, but there's so much comfort knowing like, oh, you've got that over there. Okay, who's got that over there? It's like we're dividing and conquering in different ways. And kind of what we're talking about now is like, how do we bring powerful ladies together so we can be more connected and amplifying each other in different ways? Because, I think about, and one of the things we're working on is like, if we just got some of these women around a table, like, what big things could we move in one conversation? Because I'm just such a believer in the right people in the right room can shift mountains. So how do we need to be facilitating that work so we can skip some steps instead of like take every step up the challenge that we have? Because there's some secret hacks I think we can tap into with each other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, in a big way. And for any nonprofit leaders, like, we got to join forces and collaborate more than ever, because all of us want the same thing, right? Like, we all want the same thing. We all want a better world for everybody. So yeah, I love that. It's beautiful.
What do you personally need? How can I support you human to human?
Oh God. text me every day and tell me to take a deep breath and go for a walk. No. Well, I'm working on talking about this with a friend. Not making self-care one more performative thing that I'm failing at, like one more
Yeah.
performance. And like with the long to-do list, I find that because all of this information that we're getting, there's a lot of should.
Oh,
Like
so
we
many.
should be putting collagen in our water. We should be electrolyting. We should be doing weights so that our muscle mass doesn't whatever. We should be journaling. We should be
It's a full-time
face
job.
like what do you call
Gua
that?
sha. There's gua sha, red
And
light
then there's like
therapy.
yeah, and then you add that with like the food. We should be eating more protein.
Yeah.
And then you add that to like the list of mothering and CEOing and working and parenting and being a daughter and being a sister. It's like, oh, there are 10,000 things. And I'm just really trying to not bite all of those hooks and say, like, hey, Maggie, like, where are you at? Like, what do you need today? And I
Yeah.
need help with that. I need help. I need help from other women in that same space of just like, what's working? What are you doing? And
Hmm.
not turning because I think I'm finding myself like in shame and guilt a lot because like, well, I didn't do that thing. Oh, there you go again. You didn't do that again. You didn't do this. But like, how many things can we do?
Well,
How many things can we carry?
it's insane the expectations that are on women right now in particular, from having to uphold patriarchal standards and having to step into new female standards, and then you can't fail, have to do it all. Like there's all these layers that are just so unnecessary. And looking at some of these things that might be more on the trends side of things that are just like quickly going by. And I almost think of some of these suggestions that we should be doing and about as if they're tangible things. Is this going to end up in my yard sale in 6 months? Because if it is, I don't want it. Like I don't need yard sale junk. Because it's I've been looking at a lot of the same things as well. Like I want the simple minimized version because that's all I have capacity for. So like all like what am I saying yes to versus what sounds great for somebody else? But it's so hard. Like I don't have someone I met recently told me they spent 3 hours on Bumble and that's how they got their new relationship. And I went, I don't have 30 minutes for Bumble. Like, I just don't. And if I don't have 30 minutes for something I really care about and want to be creating, I'm like, I don't have that to spend in my bathroom either. So I think it's really interesting that I'm here in Orange County, California, where there's like so much pressure for the physical appearance of things. And you're hanging out in Nepal, where I would imagine it's a little different scale. And we're still having
Mhm.
the same conversation. Like, what? No, I'm deleting the conversation. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's, it's too much. I agree with you. So, what can we delete?
yeah. I'm working on a lot of that. I'm working on a
Hmm.
lot of that. And honestly, I mean, I think we're in the same age bracket ish of growing up and thinking this. We had a lot of unlearning to do
Yeah.
um, in terms of body image, in terms of yeah, just what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to look like and all of the should hoods and yeah. So personally, like that's the thing I want to figure out because or just work my way through
Hmm.
in the next few years because I don't want to be like a stereotypical like, burnt out, angry, hard, overstimulated, over caffeinated. But we'll see. I also just have to recognize, I'm in a big chapter right now with
Hmm.
um, parenthood and work, and it's just I'm in the midst of it all right now. So we'll see. That's what I'm working on personally.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, I think you're doing great.
Thank
You,
you.
yeah, I mean, you inspire me and you give me so much like courage and like it's courage to step into the things that sound insane. And usually I'm good at that, but like to see the level that you're playing at, I'm like, oh, we're not big enough. Let's go. Let's go. Maggie needs our help, right? So it's like, thank you for being that
Mm,
person for me. And then also like the vulnerability that you've shared in every experience I've had with you, but especially today, of just reminding people that like I talk a lot about how to have it all, and it's not about having all the things that other people tell us we're supposed to
mm,
have. It's really about taking that, going back to what we want and know in our heart is what we're supposed to do and have. And I just really honor that you are asking yourselves those questions probably by the minute based on who else
we
is coming into
all
your
are.
space.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we all are. We started talking about the movie. The movie is about my greatest shame, my greatest pain, my greatest failure. And that's why it was such a nightmare to have up on the screen. I mean, you see me giving birth, you see me gaining 80 pounds, you see me losing the love of my life and what I thought my full family. I mean, there's a lot of difficulty up there. And when I watched the movie, like, I was able to just look at myself through a lens of love
Mm-hmm.
and compassion and mercy. Like, I had mercy for her instead of
Yeah.
seeing all the failure and all the things I didn't do and the ways that, all of that shame. And that was a really powerful, like, therapeutic experience of like, just have more mercy for yourself. Um, and so, yeah, I think I need that. I think I'm going to be showing up in that way of like, it's okay, you know,
Yeah.
it's okay. We're going to still lose. We're still going to suffer. We're going to have hard days and we're going to keep showing up for each other as women.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're perfect just the way you are, right? Like you're worthy just the way you are. I've been giving up the word deserve and replacing it with worthy
Mm,
because deserve means that we resent whatever we had to do to get there. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't want that. I don't want to be resenting it. I'll be mad about things. I'll wish it was done a different way. But you said it before about like having to unlearn the worthiness tied to production. It's like, no, like we're worthy of having all this stuff happen. And so are all the people you're helping right now. They
Yeah.
don't have to, there's no performance needed to be worthy of, especially things that you're giving people. Like, it's just what we should be doing as humans. So
Mm,
I've taken up so much of your time. Thank you for extra minutes as well.
such
Thank
a
you for being
good
a yes.
day. Oh, I hope we get to see each other soon. I'll be following the podcast and thank you for bringing
Yeah,
this into the world and creating space for all of us. It's so cool. Thanks for sharing your platform with me.
of course. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
All the links to connect with Maggie, BlinkNow, Between the Mountain and the Sky film and book, and everything else that she's up to are in her show notes at thepowerfulladies.com. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening and leave us a rating and review. Join us on Instagram at Powerful Ladies. And if you're looking to connect directly with me, visit karaduffy.com or Kara_Duffy on Instagram. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, I hope you're taking on being powerful in your life. Go be awesome and up to something you love.